Pregnant for 2 months, I had planned to surprise Suching on our wedding anniversary, but before I could say it, I was pushed off a cliff. The cold sea instantly surrounded me. I wanted to call for help but couldn't make a sound. Feeling my body sinking, I resignedly closed my eyes. Opening my eyes again, I found myself in a small wooden house by the seaside. Looking at the unfamiliar surroundings, I was sure I wasn't dead. Seeing many fishing items hanging in the house, I thought I must have been saved by a nearby fisherman, otherwise, I wouldn't even know where my bones are floating now. Just 3 days ago, my husband Suching and I said we wanted to spend our anniversary on an island. Although I am usually very afraid of water, I agreed, because I also wanted to give Suching a surprise on this day. Happy anniversary, Ran. Suching knelt on one knee, holding a ring in his hand. I was so excited that I couldn't speak for a while. This was a real diamond ring that Suching had promised to give me when he was in college. At that time, Suching was preparing for the postgraduate entrance examination, and I had just started working. When he proposed, Suching held a plastic ring and said to me that he would definitely give me a real diamond ring when he had money in the future. I trembled as Suching put on the ring for me, feeling like the happiest person in the world, completely unaware of the turbulent seawater under my feet and the mocking look on Tangwan's face. Just as I was about to tell Suching about my pregnancy. Go to hell, by Ran. Only if you die can I get the insurance money. I looked at my favorite husband and my best friend's vicious expression, and before I could react, I was pushed into the turbulent sea. After coming out of the wooden house, I didn't go home, but found a hotel across from the house to stay in. I didn't choose to call the police, because it would be difficult to find evidence even if I did. Besides, going to jail would be too cheap for them. What I want is to give them back the pain I have suffered, doubled. Through the hotel's glass, I can see everything at home clearly. In the living room, I saw my husband hugging my best friend Tangwan, sitting on the sofa and flirting, occasionally showing a smug smile, and the opposite of the sofa was the wedding photo of Suching and me, which is really ironic. Suching and I have been from school uniform to wedding dress, and I don't know how many people were envious of us at that time. Suching and I are from the same village. Suching's family is wealthy, and he has never been short of food and clothing since he was a child. However, my mother died of excessive bleeding after giving birth to me, and soon my father also got sick and followed my mother. I was left with my grandmother to rely on each other. Thanks to the occasional help from Suching's parents, I was barely able to grow up healthy. Suching's grades were poor, but I was a well-known good student in the village. In order to repay Suching's parents for their usual care, I would go to Suching's house to tutor him after school every day. Gradually, Suching and I became familiar with each other. We went to school and went home together, inseparable. With my continuous efforts, Suching's grades improved a lot. We were admitted to the same junior high school, and even the same university. In the first year of college, Suching confessed to me. Thinking back to the day's situation, I was so excited that I couldn't sleep all night. It was the first snow of winter. Suching stood under my dormitory building with an umbrella, holding a large bunch of roses. Suching is tall and handsome. Although he is not the campus grass, he is also a well-known handsome guy in the school. His actions attracted the attention of passing students. Would you like to be my girlfriend, Ran? With the surrounding students shouting, I was pushed to Suching's side. I nodded and shyly took the roses from Suching's hand. Finally, this friend who had been with me day and night became my boyfriend. I waved the roses in my hand and announced to everyone that I am Suching's girlfriend. In the days that followed, we skipped classes to listen to our idol's concerts, climbed to the top of the mountain in the middle of the night to watch the sunrise, and went hand in hand to see the scenery we had never seen before. I can say that all my youth was filled with Suching's shadow. On the day of the wedding, the students all said that if we divorced, they would no longer believe in love. Suching did it, but he didn't want to divorce, he just wanted to be a widower. Watching the two people laughing across, my fingernails were deeply embedded in my flesh. What you owe me, I want you to pay back all. That night, a shrill scream came from the house across, and the voice was so loud that the whole building was awakened. Is Bai Ran back? Is Bai Ran back? Suching looked at the ring he had thrown on the ground. That was the ring he had put on her hand before pushing Bai Ran into the sea. How could it appear at home now? At this time, Tangwan also saw the ring on the ground. She patted Su Chang's puzzled and asked, could it be that Bai Ran Ran didn't die at all? It's impossible. That's the place I specifically found, and there are hardly any people around. Falling from such a high place, she can't swim. How could she still be alive? Saying that, Su Chang's twisted face showed a bit of a fierce look. Even Tang Wan next to him was frightened. Just at this moment, a low sobbing sound came from the room. Give me back my life. Give me back my life. You give me back my life. It was Bai Ran Ran's voice. It was her voice. Ah, ah, ah. The two people screamed and rushed out of the house, and even their pajamas were not changed in time. I watched everything from across the glass, sneering, this is just the beginning. I hope you two can have a good time next. Sure enough, in a few days, the house across was pasted with the words for sale. Because there is only Su Chang's name on the house deed, he sold the house very smoothly. As for the person who bought the house, it was me. I had a friend come forward and bought the house at a very low price. The reason? It was all planned by me. I knew that Su Chang was timid and afraid of ghosts. He would never dare to live in this haunted house, and naturally, no one would dare to buy this haunted house. Also, thanks to Su Chang not changing the lock, I was able to easily slip into the house and hide the ring and recording I had prepared in advance. Opening the familiar door, the memories of life with Su Chang are constantly replaying. Su Chang once said to me that even if he had money to change to a big house in the future, he would not sell this house, because this house has too many memories of the two of us. There are times when we stayed up all night to catch up on dramas, times when we cleaned up the house together, and more times when Su Chang and I looked forward to a better future. Too many beautiful moments were shattered by a woman named Tang Wan. Tang Wan was a good friend I met in the last year of college. We had the same interests and talked about everything. I felt like I met her too late. Soon, Tang Wan and I became best friends. Tang Wan is very beautiful and a good student. She is the school's recognized school flower. The people who chase her can be said to be able to line up from the school to France. But she didn't find a partner in these 3 years. Sometimes I would ask her why. She only said that she focused on her studies. At that time, I, Su Chang, and Tang Wan often hung out together. The students often teased Su Chang, saying he was lucky to have 2 girlfriends at once. I occasionally heard it and didn't take it to heart. After all, one is my boyfriend, and the other is my good friend. But the fact proved that I was wrong, how important the saying guard against fire, theft, and best friends is. In a blink of an eye, 3 years of college life passed quickly. Su Chang and Tang Wan both chose to stay in school to prepare for the postgraduate entrance examination. Because of the tuition fee, I had to give up the road of postgraduate entrance examination. I could only go out of the school door like most of the students and start another chapter of life. My university was still finished with the help of Su Chang's parents and my own part-time work. I knew I didn't have the qualifications to go to graduate school, so I could only find a unit to work honestly. Su Chang seemed to see my loss and said half-jokingly, it doesn't matter whether you take the postgraduate entrance examination or not anyway, I will support you in the future. In the future, I will be responsible for making money to support the family, and you just need to be beautiful. After saying that, he spoiled me by touching my head. I was amused by Su Chang's words and didn't notice the jealous expression on Tang Wan's face. In the first year after graduation, Su Chang proposed to me. Ran, will you marry me? There was no diamond ring in the imagination. Su Chang took out a plastic ring bought from a roadside shop and put it on my hand. As in school, I was excited and threw myself into Su Chang's arms. As the saying goes, love is enough to drink water full, regardless of the ring. When you have money later, will you make up for me with a big diamond ring? I asked coquettishly in Su Chang's arms. Okay, I promise you. When I have money in the future, I will definitely make up for you with a grand wedding and a diamond ring. Su Chang gently kissed my forehead. In this way, I only invited some classmates and friends to have a meal, and I didn't even have a simple wedding and moved into Su's house. Life after marriage was plain and fulfilling. I lived with Su Chang's parents. In order to repay them for their care since childhood, I basically undertook all the housework. Father Su likes to eat Chinese food, and Mother Su likes to eat Western food. Therefore, I get up at 5 in the morning every day to prepare breakfast for them, and then rush to work in a hurry. Gradually, the time with Su Chang became less and less. Occasionally, when I talked to Su-ching for a few words, he was busy and hung up the phone in a hurry. Time passed quickly, and Su-ching was about to graduate. Thinking about spending his last Christmas at school with him, I took leave from the company in advance. I can't accompany you tonight, our project suddenly needs to work overtime. I pretended to be aggrieved on the phone. Su-ching laughed after hearing this. It doesn't matter, we have a lot of time in the future, or your work is important. After hanging up Su-ching's call, I took the cake I made by hand and secretly came to the school, preparing to give him a surprise. Su-ching looked a bit panicked when he saw me suddenly appearing downstairs of the dormitory building, but he quickly returned to calm. Aren't you supposed to be working overtime at the company today? I shook the cake in my hand and said coquettishly, isn't this to give you a surprise? Su-ching coughed unnaturally, and then I saw Tangwan standing next to him. Before I could say anything, Su-ching seemed to be afraid that I would misunderstand and hurriedly explained that we just happened to meet and no one was accompanying us for Christmas, so we made an appointment to have a meal together. Tangwan next to him also chimed in, Ran, you won't be so stingy, let Su-ching have a meal with me. At that time, I still didn't think much about it, after all, one is my husband, and the other is my best friend. At that time, I also believed that Su-ching was the person who could accompany me for a lifetime. So in life, I unconditionally believed in him and never doubted him. Even this house was bought by me. As for why only Su-ching's name was written, it was because Su-ching said that if both of our names were written, there would be no quota to buy a house in the future. I believed it and wrote his name without hesitation. My income has always been higher than Su-ching's, so I basically spent money on everything at home, and I never cared too much about it. Now I think about it, I was really naive at that time, maybe my own efforts were worthless in Su-ching's eyes. After moving out of the house, Su-ching went to the police station several times in a row. He just wanted to get my death certificate as soon as possible to get my death compensation from the insurance company. It's just that the police refused him because the missing time was not enough for 2 years. For this reason, Su-ching made a fuss in the police station several times. A few days before the wedding anniversary, Su-ching suddenly brought me an accidental death insurance to sign. I looked at the beneficiary written as Su-ching. I thought it was strange at the time, but I didn't think much about it and signed it. It turns out that what I signed at the time was not insurance, but my own death warrant. After my secret investigation these days, I found out that these two people had been together since they were preparing for the postgraduate entrance examination in school. The two of them took advantage of my absence and often went out together, regardless of the gossip in the school. At that time, I was busy with work and rarely went to the school to see Su-ching, which created the conditions for the two of them to be together. After graduation, the two also entered the same company. It's really just short of telling everyone that Su-ching has cheated and is with Tangwan. Only I was still foolishly unaware. There were several times when the property brother reminded me that when I was on a business trip and not at home, there was always a woman who came to see Su-ching, asking me to pay attention. Although I was suspicious at the time, due to the busy work at the time and the strong trust in Su-ching, I didn't think much about it. Now I think about it, no wonder Su-ching has changed like a person since graduation. He would vent his anger on me for a little thing, and he was impatient with me in life, completely losing his original appearance. Once in the morning, I didn't have time to make the wontons that Su-ching likes, and I bought some ready-made fried dough sticks and soy milk from downstairs. Su-ching saw it and directly threw all the food on the ground. How can I eat something so unhealthy? Do you think you are great now that you earn more than me? I was stunned in front of the angry and roaring Su-ching. In my impression, Su-ching has always been a gentle person who would not lose his temper for no reason. When he was in school, he never had conflicts with others, and he was always the first to help when needed. I don't know what's going on with the Su-ching in front of me now. At that time, I thought he might be under too much work pressure, and it would be fine after a while. Now I think about it, in fact, there were early signs, but I was completely unaware. Not long after, the news of Su-ching and Tangwan's marriage came. In the hotel, I looked at Su-ching on the stage, who was still handsome, and his suit made him look more upright. But now, there is no love in my eyes when I look at him, only a full eye of hatred. I used to hope that I could wear a white wedding dress and stand by Su-ching, receiving blessings from friends and relatives. But until I woke up from this dream, I never had the chance to wear a wedding dress. Su-ching seemed to feel my hatred. In an instant, we looked at each other. Su Cheng's face turned pale as if he had seen a ghost, and his body trembled uncontrollably. Tang Wan next to him also saw me and suddenly screamed. For a while, the people under the stage didn't know what had happened, and they all looked in their line of sight. In an instant, the audience was like a pot, with various discussions rising one after another. Isn't this Su Cheng's daughter-in-law? How is she still alive? I heard that she fell into the sea and drowned, right? I stared at the two people on the stage expressionlessly, and then showed a look of great grievance, rushed to the stage and beat Su Cheng. From beginning to end, Su Cheng didn't fight back, as if he hadn't recovered from the shock. Su Dad and Su Mom were also stunned when they saw me. If I still have a trace of affection for Su Cheng at this time, it's all because of Su Dad and Su Mom's care for me since I was young. After my commotion, Su Cheng and Tang Wan's wedding naturally didn't come off. As I was a missing person, we three were taken to the police station for a statement as expected. I pretended not to remember how I fell into the sea, and I only knew that I woke up in a wooden house. The police listened for a long time and finally concluded that I accidentally fell into the sea. My head may have accidentally hit a stone and I forgot some things. It seems to be called selective amnesia in medicine. Hearing me say this, Su Cheng and Tang Wan breathed a sigh of relief, looked at each other doubtfully, and didn't know what to say for a while. Su Cheng comforted, Ran, it's good that you're okay. I thought you were dead. You don't know how sad I was during this period. Tang Wan next to him also chimed in, saying that Ran, you don't know how anxious we were. Since you fell into the sea, we too really couldn't eat or sleep, and it was unbearable. I sneered in my heart, looking at the two people in front of me showing their true feelings. I really had to admire it. If the Oscars didn't give you two a trophy, it's really a gathering of similar things. If I hadn't known the true face of these two people early, I would really believe it. Nowadays, there are not many people with such acting skills. Now that I'm back, Su Cheng and Tang Wan naturally can't be together. And their insurance fraud plan has also fallen through. Su Cheng took me back to his new house with Tang Wan. On the way, Su Cheng told me a lot about what happened after I fell into the sea. He portrayed himself as a husband who had lost his loved one. With the encouragement and help of family and friends, he gradually got out of the predicament. Being with Tang Wan was also after I fell into the sea. He also explained to me that the previous house was sold by him, saying that it was to avoid being blocked by things and thinking about people. Along the way, Su Cheng said a lot and promised to take good care of me in the future. I was really about to vomit. I had to pretend to be very touched to cooperate with him. I think what he cares about most now is that I'm back and the money is gone. As for why Tang Wan is willing to give up the house for me to live in, it's entirely because the money for buying this house was used to sell the previous house. In the final analysis, in fact, this house has nothing to do with either of them. Back in his and Tang Wan's new house, the same style of decoration, the same style of wedding photos. Tang Wan is indeed Tang Wan, she has to snatch this too. I stared at the large wedding photo of Su Cheng and Tang Wan in the living room, and was silent. Su Cheng seemed to see that I was not happy, and hurriedly took down his and Tang Wan's wedding photo. Sure enough, men are very fickle, and people like Su Cheng who always put their own interests first are not only fickle but also very selfish. I pretended to deceive Su Cheng by saying that I am still a bit uncomfortable physically and can't work for the time being. I need to rest at home for a period of time. Su Cheng didn't say anything, just said he had asked for a period of leave from the company and could take care of me at home during this time. As we used to do when we were bored, we would nest on the sofa to catch up on dramas, and Su Cheng would change the dishes to make delicious food for me every day, as if life had returned to its original track and nothing had happened before. But only I know that the good is just on the surface, and in the dark, Su Cheng can't wait for me to die earlier. During this time, Su Cheng has been very honest and has not made any small moves. I don't know whether it's out of guilt for me or a real change. Just when I thought this kind of life would last for a while. Stop pretending, I know you didn't lose your memory, did you? The speaker is Tang Wan sitting in front of me. As expected, I suddenly received a text message from Tang Wan saying I'll wait for you at the old place tomorrow morning. I put down my coffee and looked at Tang Wan coldly, indicating that she should continue. Tell me, what do you want to do to let me go? Said Tang Wan, putting the document bag in her hand on the table. This is exactly what I sent to her yesterday. It contains some of the evidence of her and Su Qing embezzling company funds. Not long ago, I accidentally found out that she and Su Qing embezzled company funds to make up for the gambling debts they owed before. The amount of embezzled funds is enough for them to go inside and tread a lifetime of sewing machines. Just a month before my wedding anniversary, Su Qing always came home late for various reasons. At first, I thought it was because there was a conflict between us. Now I think about it, it was all about Tangwan taking money to gamble with him. Seeing that the company's account checking day is approaching, in order to prevent the embezzlement of funds from being exposed, the two people are in a hurry and come up with the idea of killing the wife to defraud the insurance, wanting to use my life to make up for the money they embezzled. It's really a good plan. Kill Su Qing. As long as you kill him, I will give you all the evidence in my hand. You can also put the embezzlement of funds on Su Qing alone, so that you can extricate yourself. It's a win-win situation, I think you will agree, right? What if I don't agree? Then I will hand over the evidence directly to the police. Tangwan sneered, if you want to hand it over, you would have handed it over a long time ago. You know that even if you hand it over to the police, we will be in there for a while, but we won't die, and what you want is our lives. By Ran, I found your B-ultrasound form in your previous home. Are you pregnant, right? Su Qing is really ruthless. Not only does he want to kill you, but he also wants to kill his own child. After saying this, Tangwan couldn't help laughing. At this time, my hand under the table has been pinched by myself and bled. I'm really afraid that I can't help but kill her directly. This once was my good girlfriend, at this moment is peeling off my wounds bit by bit, mercilessly sprinkling salt on it. Tangwan, I blame me for not seeing through your true face earlier, now you have no right to choose. I give you 3 days, if Su Qing is still alive after 3 days, then you will stay in prison together until you die. After saying this, I picked up my bag and walked out of the coffee shop. Su Qing may not know that I was pregnant at the time, and I never told him. At that time, I thought about telling him on the anniversary to give him a surprise, but I didn't have time to say it, and I was pushed off the cliff. If I had told him early, would the result be different? Now none of this is important, it doesn't matter. The child is gone, my heart is dead, and the only thing that supports me to live now is hatred. After returning home, I told Su Qing that Tangwan had asked me out today and said a lot of strange things to me. Su Qing, Tangwan told me that I didn't fall off the cliff accidentally, but you pushed me down to get my accident insurance money. If I want to revenge, let me cooperate with her to kill you. Say that only if you die, she and I can be at ease. I pretended not to understand what these words mean, squatted on the ground and shook my head painfully. I looked at Su Qing with tearful eyes. It looked like I was very stimulated. Tell me, what Tangwan said is all false, right? Su Qing hurriedly comforted, Ran, Tangwan is deceiving you, she may just want to stimulate you, let you remember things earlier, don't think nonsense. We grew up together, how could I harm you for money? I leaned against Su Qing and pretended to believe and nodded. At night, I saw Su Qing lying beside me, tossing and turning, and I knew what I said had an effect. We each had our own worries and slept back to back, although we slept in the same bed, our hearts were no longer together. Now Su Qing is suspicious of both me and Tangwan. Just at this time, Su Qing's mobile phone lit up. It was a message from Tangwan inviting him to have dinner at her house tomorrow. I saw Su Qing's eyes staring at the mobile phone screen, gradually showing a murderous look. I think no matter Su Qing or Tangwan, they must not be able to sleep tonight. I want them to kill each other, I want to be the final winner of this game. The next night, as I expected, Su Qing made an excuse and went out. I guess he went to Tangwan's appointment. I prepared the meal at home, waiting for Su Qing to come back for dinner. Sure enough, an hour later, Su Qing came back. He didn't panic, but sat down directly opposite me. Talk about it, how did you kill Tangwan? I stared at Su Qing coldly. I am very interested in their dog-biting dog behavior. Su Qing looked at me and said lightly, we were all calculated by you. Tangwan told me that you didn't lose your memory at all, you did it on purpose, you just want to see us kill each other, right? I didn't admit or deny it. I waited quietly for Su Qing to speak. I put the poison I hid in my sleeve yesterday into Tangwan's red wine glass. She drank that glass of red wine without knowing anything. I think if it wasn't for her taking me to gamble and encouraging me to embezzle public funds with her, she wouldn't have ended up like this. I picked up the red wine in front of me and took a sip. Sure enough, in Su Chang's heart, only his own interests are the most important, and Tang Wan is just a piece he can discard at any time. I told Su Chang the truth, that I designed to let you kill each other. I told Tang Wan that as long as you kill him, you can push the embezzlement of funds on him alone, otherwise I will expose her, and you wait for me to continue. Su Chang asked anxiously. Tang Wan told me that you were pregnant before you were pushed down? Is that true? Hearing Su Chang mention the child, I wanted to kill him immediately. You still care about the child, you have always only had yourself in your eyes. Don't pretend to be guilty about the child, because you don't deserve it. After hearing my words, Su Chang couldn't help laughing. It was me. I killed my own child. Ha ha ha, I killed my own child. I looked at the gradually crazy Su Chang, and I knew Su Chang was completely crazy. Tang Wan also told her that she didn't really like me, she just couldn't accept that a guy didn't like her, so she tried every means to seduce me. You women, all deserve to die. Tang Wan probably never thought that the ending she prepared for me became her own ending. What a stupid woman! I smiled after listening to Su Chang's words. Let's eat first. Su Chang looked at the table full of dishes and didn't move his chopsticks for a long time. I knew he was afraid that I had poisoned the dishes and would end up like Tang Wan. I picked up the chopsticks and started eating. Seeing me eat, Su Chang also began to eat. Ran, I'm sorry, I didn't know you were pregnant at the time. I was deceived by that bitch Tang Wan. She deceived me to gamble, let me embezzle public funds, it's all her. She deserves to die, she deserves to die. Now she is dead, we can start over and live our own life well. With tears streaming down his face, he knelt in front of me. I sneered, a person who can kill his wife for money, I really don't believe he will repent, it's just the crocodile's tears. Sure enough, just as I was about to speak, Su Chang suddenly took out a handkerchief from his arms and covered my mouth. A pungent gas rushed into my nose, and I immediately felt dizzy, and then I fell asleep and didn't know anything. Su Chang didn't notice that I had a smile on the corner of my mouth before I fell unconscious. Su Chang, you are surrounded. Put down your weapon and don't hurt the hostage. We can fight for lenient treatment for you. I woke up and found myself on the cliff where Su Chang and Tang Wan pushed me into the sea. My hands and feet were tied with ropes. Listening to the police siren coming from the side, I knew I was only one step away from success. At this time, Su Chang grabbed my hair, and a bright dagger was against my neck. By Ran, you have calculated all this, right? How did the police come so timely? Yes, it was me who calculated you. Who let you be so stupid? The crisp sound of a slap fell. I licked the blood from the corner of my mouth and looked at Su Chang's eyes without fear. I know that people like you will not let me go, and you have been planning to kill me since you came out of Tang Wan's house, right? I had already called the police. Since you love to act, then I will of course cooperate with you to finish the play. Su Chang laughed angrily. Do you think you can leave alive today? The first time I didn't kill you, this time I will send you to the underground to be reunited with Tang Wan. Now, Su Chang not only has no remorse, but he has also become extremely crazy. I deliberately angered Su Chang. Do you dare to kill me? There are all police officers next to you, you have done so many evil things, you killed your own child, the one who should die is you. Hearing me mention the child, Su Chang covered his ears and became more and more crazy. He shouted at me in a hysterical manner, I didn't know you were pregnant, I didn't do it on purpose, it's all your and Tang Wan's fault, you all deserve to die. He stabbed at me with the dagger in his hand. Just then, there was a bang. Su Chang fell backward and fell into the sea. The surging waves immediately engulfed Su Chang's body. In a short while, a large number of police officers rushed over, and I was also sent to the ambulance by the doctor. I deliberately angered Su Chang. I knew that as long as Su Chang wanted to kill me, the police would shoot. Before leaving, I took a last look at the place where Su Chang fell. This look seemed to have exhausted all my strength. I finally avenged myself and my child. I didn't feel as happy as I imagined. All I wanted at the moment was to have a good sleep. When I woke up again, it was in the hospital. Looking at the snow-white ceiling above my head, I was a bit distracted for a while. By Ran, you can be discharged after changing the medicine, there is nothing wrong. The nurse's voice brought me back to reality. I answered with a good. Walking out of the hospital and seeing the sun in an instant, I felt as if I had been reborn. I took a taxi to the insurance company. I took out Su Cheng's insurance policy and death certificate. In a few days, Su Cheng's death compensation was paid into my account, and I looked at the series of numbers on the card and raised the corners of my mouth. In fact, during the time when I pretended to lose my memory and lived with Su Cheng, I would let Su Cheng sign some insignificant things for various reasons. After signing a lot, Su Cheng wouldn't look at each one, and the insurance policy was the one I hid in it for him to sign. At this time, a strange text message suddenly popped up on my mobile phone. I know everything you've done. If you don't want me to tell the police, get ready for the money and meet at the city warehouse tonight. Closing the phone, I vaguely guessed who he was. In the evening, I came to the city warehouse with money. The warehouse was pitch black, with only a faint moonlight shining through the gaps. At this time, a vague figure came from the distance. Bang! The bag of money in my hand fell to the ground. You really didn't die? You're right, the person who came is Su Cheng. Su Cheng looked at me and laughed loudly. Unexpectedly, I didn't die, even God is taking care of me. Do you think I didn't know about the insurance you bought for me? I just took advantage of the situation. The police's gun only hit my arm that day. I deliberately fell into the sea, in order to pretend to be dead, so that you can get the insurance money. Now the money is finally mine. Even if you die here today, no one will suspect me. Give me the money, and I will let you die painlessly. I unhesitatingly threw the bag of money at Su Cheng. While his attention was on the money, I ran to the warehouse door. But before I could run far, my neck was numb and I fell to the ground. I was tied to a chair by Su Cheng. The surrounding area was filled with gasoline. It was obvious that he wanted to burn me to death. I laughed. Su Cheng, take a look at what's in the bag. Su Cheng quickly opened the bag of money, and it was full of stacks of white paper. By Ran, you dare to deceive me, really not afraid to die? He said, taking out a lighter and threatening. If you don't tell me where the money is, I'll send you to see the King of Hell. Want to know? Come here, I'll tell you when you come. Su Cheng was unguarded and came over directly. He didn't know that I had already cut the ropes with a dagger hidden in my sleeve. When he came close, I suddenly took out the dagger and stabbed it into his chest. Su Cheng looked down in disbelief at the dagger that had penetrated his chest, and the lighter in his hand fell to the ground in an instant. The warehouse immediately caught fire, and the raging fire engulfed the bodies of me and Su Cheng. It's over. It's finally over. The next day, the police reported that a fire broke out in the city warehouse. 2 bodies were found, Su Cheng and his wife by Ran, who had been missing for a while. The cause of the fire is under investigation by the police. We have all paid the price for the wrong things we have done. Maybe this is the best ending, and our family can be reunited. I continued, you thought you could kill me and take the insurance money, but you didn't count on the fact that I was always one step ahead. I knew you wouldn't let me live, so I made sure to protect myself. Su Cheng's eyes widened in shock and anger. You cunning bitch! You've been planning this all along, haven't you? I nodded, a cold smile on my lips. Every step, every move. I knew you'd try to kill me again, so I set up the perfect trap. The police were ready and waiting for your call. His face twisted in fury. You won't get away with this. I'll make sure you pay. I already have, I retorted. I've paid with my trust, my love, and my child's life. But you, Su Cheng, you'll pay with your life. Just then, the sound of sirens grew louder, and the police burst into the warehouse. Drop your weapon, they shouted. Su Cheng, still holding the knife, hesitated for a moment before lunging at me. The police had no choice but to act. A single shot rang out, and Su Cheng fell, his body collapsing onto the flames that were already consuming the warehouse. The police rushed in, extinguishing the fire and securing the area. I was freed from my bindings and taken to safety, but not before I saw the lifeless body of Su Cheng, his plans for revenge and greed finally at an end. In the aftermath, the truth of what happened came to light. The insurance company, alerted by my prior suspicions, had been working with the police to set a trap for Su Cheng. My death had been staged, and the insurance payout was a bait to lure him into revealing his true intentions. As I stood over the edge of the cliff, looking down at the sea that had almost claimed my life, I felt a mix of emotions. relief, sadness, and a strange sense of closure. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the scene. I knew that life would never be the same, but I also knew that I had survived. I had fought back against the betrayal and won. With the insurance money, I planned to start a new life, one where I could heal and move forward. But for now, all I wanted was to rest, to let the events of the past fade into memory. The police continued their investigation, and the story of my ordeal made headlines. People marveled at the strength and determination I had shown, but for me, it was simply a matter of survival. As I walked away from the cliff, the sun dipping below the horizon, I felt a sense of peace. The nightmare was over, and a new day was dawning.